Hey there, welcome to No Recipe Required. I'm Dave, and pork chops are one of my absolute favorite meals. They're pretty easy to make once you know the techniques, and tonight I'm going to show you how to cook a pork chop. I got an absolute monster of a pork chop from a really great local butcher. It's going to be super tasty. The techniques I'm going to show you tonight are exactly what you're going to use, whether you got a thin one, a thick one, any particular kind of one right in the middle. Let's go ahead and get started.
All right, let's talk about the first rule of the perfect pork chop. Rule number one is buy a good pork chop. Obviously you need a good quality pork chop, good meat from a reputable store. Then I also like to buy kind of double cut or thick cut pork chops. This is a bit of the brontosaurus chop. It's absolutely enormous. You don't need them this big, but if you see really thin ones in there, I kind of skip them, really. They're kind of hard to keep nice and moist and tender. They tend to dry out pretty quickly. So, rule number one, good pork. Rule number two for the perfect pork chop is brine the pork chop. So I've just got a mixture here of water, salt, and sugar. It's as simple as that. You can get more complex. You can add lots of flavors to it, spices, herbs, vegetables, all kinds of things. I welcome them all. They're all great, but you don't need them. The brine is going to make the chop much more tender, juicy, and delicious. Second rule of the perfect pork chop is seasoning. Now, even though we brined it, I skipped a rule. We're going to brine it, then we're going to pull it out of the brine a good half an hour before we're going to cook it to let it come up to room temperature. That allows us to manage the doneness much better than if we start cooking it when it's cold. So, let it come up to room temperature. Then, you want to make sure it's seasoned well. So, despite being in the brine, that doesn't mean you can skip salt and pepper. You want to make sure you get salt and pepper on both sides and be pretty liberal with it, especially depending on the size or the thickness of the cut. This is like I said, the brontosaurus cut, quite thick and meaty, so you're going to need a good amount of seasoning to carry it kind of all the way through as you're cutting through the meat, all the way on the inside. I'm even going to kind of season our edge here, because this is going to be, or our side, because this is going to be another, frankly, side that I cook in the pan as well. I like to leave my seasoning on for 15-20 minutes, then we're going to fire it off. So let's go on to the next pork chop rule. So I almost always, certainly for a pork chop this thick, start it on, that is nice and hot. So I started on the stove top in a good hot pan and let the outside sear and get nice and golden brown before we move it into the oven. If you just cook it in the oven, you'll get it done, it'll be okay, but you won't really get that nice crust on the outside that generates a tremendous amount of flavor. So I'm going to let this go medium heat for a good 3 or 4 minutes just on that side. Don't touch it, don't mess with it, don't do anything with it. Just let it cook down. I've been going about 3 minutes or so, and I can tell just by looking at the edges of the pan that we're getting to that nice golden brown crust on the outside, which is exactly what I want. So I'm going to flip it over, do the same thing on this side. If you feel like the pan's kind of scorching at the bottom, you can certainly turn it down a little bit to medium heat, but you want to make sure you do keep high heat on it or you won't get that nice sear. So I've got my other side cooked down now. Again, golden brown. And I think I mentioned before, this particular chop had a nice kind of fatty layer on the top. And if your chop has one of those, I highly recommend that you spend some time cooking down or rendering down that fat just by laying it on its side there and letting it come off. If you do that, it gets, again, kind of nice and crispy and absolutely super delicious. So I'm going to do this for a few minutes, and then I'm going to pop the entire thing into like a 400-degree oven. And I'm going to use a meat thermometer for a chop this large to tell when it's done. We're looking for like an internal temperature of about 145. So for a pork chop this size, I like to use a meat thermometer because the my hand test with this size is a little bit tricky. If you're more comfortable with meat thermometer, by all means do it. Just don't poke in. Just gotta leave it in there. We're gonna stick it into a 400 degree oven. for probably 15 minutes or so until we get an internal temperature of about 145. Okay, so my pork chop has reached 140 degrees internal temperature, which is right where I want to pull it out, but we're not done yet. Next rule, you gotta let it rest. The juices are all just going crazy inside there, and if you cut it now, they're all just gonna flow out. So take some foil, move it over, wrap it in the foil, let it rest for at least 5 minutes. Okay, so our last rule was to make sure we let this rest, and through the magic of carryover temperature, we took it out at 140. Temperature is now up to 150, which is why we take it out just a little bit early. So once it's rested, I'm happy to remove our thermometer, and then you can serve it just like this, and it's absolutely perfect. Or because this is so huge, I'm actually splitting it with my wife. And so I'm going to slice it by taking it off the bone. You can just use your knife and just follow the bone around. And don't worry about that nice little rib. I'm going to work on that. When you're slicing it, make sure you get kind of nice, thick slices all the way down, and you're going to have beautiful, tender, juicy pork. I'm happy to be serving mine with just a little bit of fried polenta cake. I'm going to take like 3 of those slices, lay them down, give it a rinse to the hands, and then I did some sauteed apples as well that we can just lay right on top, along with a little bit of juice. And, you know, if we want to get pretty, you can grab a little rosemary, a little herb or something like that, stick it in there, and you got a beautiful pork chop, the perfect pork chop. I'll see you next time on No Recipe Required.